This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and I'm with Howard Smith, who's representing the Labour Party in our series of leader interviews as we progress towards the Borough Council elections on May the 4th. Howard, thank you for joining the Guildford Dragon this afternoon.
You're welcome, Martin. Always a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you. And so we'll get straight into it. And the first question is, what is your party's policy on the local plan? When would it be reviewed if you were in charge of the next council, and what changes would you be seeking?
Okay, well, as you probably know, when the local plan was first came in around a year ago, our councillors voted to approve the local plan. So we're in favour of the local plan. The thing about a local plan is, I think probably universally people accept that you do need to have a local plan, because that will avoid unwanted development in all over, and no one wants that. So hopefully everyone's agreed that we need a local plan. The difference is, what do you put in the local plan? And we think that you have to have some fairly major sites in a local plan for it to be effective, so that you can prove to the government that you're serious about having a plan that's going to work. So we're comfortable with the sites that are in the local plan. Obviously, there are quite a range of forces that would like fewer houses, but we're of the view that we need those houses for people in Guildford. And so we're in favour of the local plan. We're happy for the review to take its course. We have no fear about housing numbers being increased slightly or reduced slightly. We're just happy that we've got a local plan. It's got some good sites in there, and we're happy to, for it to proceed and take its course.
Okay. Now, one of the sites, of course, is at the former Wisley Airfield, and some of the criticism has been around the fact that it's not sustainable in some terms, because it would require most people to have a car to get to the nearest town, etc. Do you think that's a weakness of that particular site?
Yeah, I think it is a weakness, but there's plenty of places that you do rely on a car. We'd like to see a much better infrastructure. I'm a big, like you are, I'm a big fan of e-bikes and cycle a lot. I'd like to see better cycle routes in and around Guildford, and I think that would benefit. We'd also like to see a good quality bus service, and we'd hope that that would be provided for the people on that site too. But I think the problem is not with the houses, it's the problem with the transport and infrastructure. I think the focus shouldn't be on trying to stop housing. It should be a positive focus on providing the infrastructure so people can get to and from Wisley.
Okay, and you've mentioned infrastructure there, and there have been concerns expressed that we're getting development at the moment ahead of infrastructure. Would you be seeking to address that?
In as much as Guildford Borough Council can, obviously we don't have a full say on providing infrastructure, but certainly we'd be in favour of the housing, and we'd be in favour of pushing for as much infrastructure improvements as we possibly can to enable that site to be a good site for homes for people in Guildford.
But housing ahead of infrastructure is going to cause real problems, isn't it?
It could do, but I don't think these houses are going to be built next week, are they? So we've got time to work on the infrastructure before the houses are occupied and fully up and running.
Okay, so that doesn't sound as if you'd be asking for too many changes in the local plan, if any, then.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, right. Will your party continue, looking at the town now, Guildford Town, will your party continue the work on shaping Guildford's future and the associated master plan?
Well, first thing I'd say about shaping Guildford's future is the amount of money that it's cost to produce this. I believe we've spent about £3 million on it so far, and there's another £2 million budgeted, so it's going to cost in the region of £5 million, and that seems an extremely high sum to come up with a plan for the town centre, especially at a time when we know that the council is pretty broke at the moment. We've on the one hand, we've been closing public toilets to save some money. On the other hand, we're spending £5 million on a town centre plan, and that seems extraordinary to me at this stage to do that. But from what I've seen of the plan so far, I think it's a good plan. I think there's good things in there. I think opening up the riverside is a good move, and obviously the other developments that are taking place in the town centre, hopefully North Street, hopefully Debenhams and Guildford Park Road and things like that, will move forward and be part of that plan. It will be complemented by things that the council can do on its own land to make the town centre a much more vibrant and nicer place to visit and to live.
Okay, I think the 3 and 2 million figures may be in the other way around. 2 million spent and 3 million voted for, but I could be wrong. You could be right and I could be wrong, but I think it was the other way around. It's a detail.
Yeah.
On height policy, obviously that has proved to be a controversial issue. There's a video circulating at the moment, which I expect you've seen, and it's a campaign video called Battle for Guildford. Have you seen it?
I have seen it, yes.
Yeah. So what's your party's view on that? Not just yours personally, or give your personal view by all means, but have you spoken about it with your party colleagues? What do they think of it?
I have, yeah. I think there's a lot of nonsense in that video, to be honest. A lot of scaremongering, a lot of misinformation. Obviously, there are strong views about the heights in the town centre. I think it's unfortunate that the view that's often seen of that North Street development is a view that no one would ever see. It's like a drone sort of perched on the top of the tallest building, and it's not really representative of that development. I mean, at the planning meeting, Angela Gunning, who's on the planning committee, voted in favour of that. So you can take it from that we're in favour of that North Street development. I mean, I can find fault with it. Everyone can find fault with it, and there's things I'd like to be better. But when you go to a planning meeting with an application, it's not like a buffet where you can choose the bits you like and sort of reject the bits you don't like. You have to say, does the benefits outweigh the harm? And personally, and I think as a Labour group, we believe that the benefits of moving forward with that North Street development outweighs the harm for what it is. And obviously that space in Guildford has been there for 25 years, and we need to do something with it. And we can't just, sit around and wonder how it could be perfect. I think I would like to see changes. I'd like to see different things. But if you want me to vote on that particular application, then as Angela did at the planning meeting, I would vote in favour of it, and let's get moving and develop that site.
Okay, I mean, obviously it's been rejected, so now we have to wait and see what happens, whether there's going to be an appeal or whether another application. But
when it was approved, it was recommended by officers, wasn't it?
Yes.
And the vote was very narrow. I would expect the planners, who knows, but I would expect the developers to come back with either the same and win it on appeal or something very similar. And
you'll support that if it happens.
If it's as we say, as we think it will be, then I would support it. Yes.
And you won't be looking for any height restriction policy.
I can see the argument on height policies both ways. I think we all can. I mean, I think some people are being wise after the event, and would have been great to have a height policy then. But then, as some other people will tell you, tall building in a lower part of Guildford is not as bad as a tall building on a higher part of Guildford. I can see it both ways. Personally, I don't think it's a deal breaker whether we have a height policy or not. I can see the benefits, but I can see the drawbacks of it. If someone said, we want to have a height policy, I'd be fine with that. I don't have strong feelings on that one way or the other.
Okay, I mean, there were people saying that it's not all in hindsight. There were people saying it at the time the policy was the part 2 of the local plan was being drawn up. So it's not all in hindsight.
Sure, but not enough to get a height policy put in place. So.
Okay, and the other issue raised in the video was the public consultation. It was claimed it was insufficient. Do you have any sympathy with that view?
No, not really. I think there was a wide consultation. I went along to see the plans, to see the little building and stuff like that. I'm fairly clued in, I suppose, but I think most people who are interested in developments in the town centre were aware of it. And I think there's only so much consultation you can do, and I think there was certainly, from my point of view, there was adequate, more than adequate consultation on that side.
On that, do you think that we all have a duty, if you like, to be engaged with our local? If we want to complain about things, then we have a duty to actually find out about things too.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think there's all sorts of mailing lists you can sign up to get alerts from the council and things that are going on. You can all the council meetings and exec meetings and planning meetings are all available to watch online, and they're all recorded so that you can watch them later. I certainly watch a lot of them. I think it's there. If you're not interested, then you can't really complain later that you weren't consulted.
No, and you couldn't do better than keeping up with the Guildford Dragon, could you, Howard?
Exactly. A wonderful resort in the town.
Okay. Next question. What can GBC do to increase? So we're moving now to finances. What could GBC do to increase revenue, given the generally parlous state of local government finances?
Well, I'd like to see. I mean, GBC gets income from a number of sources, including the Slyfield Industrial Estate and Milton Industrial Estate and things like that. I'd like to see a lot more action on GBC and trying to find ways that they can use the assets that they've got to make to bring in some income. Because I think a lot of the problem with Guildford in the last this administration and the previous one has all been about cuts. Everything has been about cuts. The future Guildford was all about cutting the staff numbers at GBC right down to the bone. And then the Waverley collaboration is all about asking staff to do 2 jobs. And I think we need a bit more imagination than just cutting staff and cutting jobs and trying to save money. We need to find ways of investing. I think it seems to me there's some very, very talented people at GBC on the staff, and I'm sure they could find ways of generating further income from the assets that we've got. And we at Guildford GBC, we do have a legacy of creating assets that do bring in cash for the town, and I'd like to see a lot more on that. And there doesn't seem to be much movement on that at the moment, so that's what I'd like to see.
That's interesting to hear. I think you're the only one I know of a party representative to say, say that you try and resist the cuts. But of course, to do that, you do need extra income. You said that you need to be more imaginative. But isn't it a real problem for most councils, actually, that since the government grants have dried up, that they're finding it very difficult to get ends to meet, and that's why we're experiencing these cuts?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, we look at the planning situation in Guildford. Are we bottom of the table? We're pretty close to the bottom of the
one
table.
stage, yeah.
Yeah, a customer service. I think there was an internal, the council did an audit on its customer services, and was it 1 in 25 inquiries with the council was answered within the service level time frame?
Yeah, it's very poor level.
This is I think there's projected deficit this financial year of £3 million. Next year, is it £6 or £8 million? And so it goes on. So whatever the council, this administration, you can't just blame this one, but the one before as well, the Tory one before, whatever they've been doing has not been working. We're left with a really poor level of service at Guildford Borough Council. We've left with there's a recruitment problem as well at Guildford, with people not being able to fill vacancies, particularly in planning, and all these things. Whatever people have been doing the last 4 or 8 years, how far you want to look back, is really not working. We need to do something different. And what I think we know that Guildford Borough Council does own a lot of land. It owns about 1/3 of the North Street site for a start. And we need to do something with these assets to generate some money to bring it in, because we can't keep cutting the staff.
Okay, I find that an interesting response, because you're not criticising central government for cutting the funds, and you are. Sorry?
No, absolutely. That's a given. That's an absolute given.
Okay, so you are criticising that, but you're saying given that's the fact, then the council. Okay.
That doesn't just affect Guildford, though. Guildford must have its own issues, which puts it at the bottom of the league table for planning, and has a really poor customer service. Every council is affected by it. And obviously, I would imagine a lot of councillors at GBC and elsewhere are hoping we're going to get a change of government soon, so that we can get back to proper finances in local government. And that's me plug for a national vote for the Labour Party, because that's the only way we're going to have a change of government. Okay. And that's good, absolutely. But I think, GBC can't change that. They can't do anything about that. What they can do is look at themselves and see how they can improve services, generate more income, and I'd like to see a lot more focus on that.
Okay, but what you were saying, it seems to me, chimes with a conservative viewpoint that councils need to be more entrepreneurial, as I think I've heard it described. But that doesn't seem to, I wouldn't have thought that goes along with normal Labour Party views on government.
No, I think it absolutely does. I think it
Oh,
absolutely
okay.
does. Yeah, no, I don't see any issue with that whatsoever.
Okay,
I think
interesting.
if you're just going to sit around and wait for national government to give you money, well, you better vote Labour for a Labour government, because that's the only way you're going to get it. But before that, up until that, and I would have liked to seen a process, for the last few years of thinking, what can we do to generate more income? I think
Okay, but
that's
I mean, it has to be borne in mind that several councils have caught severe colds with their property investments, haven't they?
yeah, they have done, and then just in Woking and in places like that.
And Surrey Heath too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's no reason why you can't invest in a Slyfield type operation, which is local, provides jobs, brings in an income. That kind of thing we need more of that.
Okay.
Much more of that.
And next, now some say that GBC is not doing enough to prioritise measures to address climate change. Do you agree? And if so, what would you do differently?
Well, for a start, can I say GBC quite rightly declared a climate emergency 4 years ago. It took them 4 years to come up with a plan, which is an absolute scandal. How it takes 4 years. I mean, emergent, what is it about the word emergency that doesn't make you think you've got to do things quickly? So I think that was, it speaks for itself, really. I'd like to see much more, I mentioned it before, but I'd like to see much more active travel. I mean, the problem with Guildford is the congestion through the centre of the town from the A3, which has led to really poor air quality. And nothing seems to me has been done in the last 4 years to improve air quality or do anything about the congestion. So we need to, and I accept it's in conjunction with Surrey County Council, because obviously the roads in and around Guildford are their responsibility to a large degree. But I'd like to see a lot more effort in trying to get people out of their cars, into public transport, on bikes, and that sort of thing, so we can reduce the traffic congestion. This is not just to help cyclists. This is to help car drivers who have to drive by necessity, and if we can just reduce it by 2% or 5% or 10%, it will be a huge thing of benefit for Guildford, not just air quality, reducing congestion, and just making the town centre a much more pleasant place to live and to work.
No.
So GBC, as you know, Martin, GBC was it the previous administration put together a lot of really excellent cycling report, which has just gathered dust on the shelf for 4 years, and they've done nothing to it. I'm pro cycling. I mean, we're two old boys, aren't we? We're cycling around on our e-bikes. If we can do it, anyone can do it, right? So,
well, yeah, that's true. But by the same token, you and I both attended that meeting in Bertham, and we could see there how strongly people feel about prioritising cycle routes over road access for motorists. So it is a tricky problem, isn't it? Because if in a democracy, the majority view counts, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that was a majority view, though. I think that was a view from people who are worried about being inconvenienced and weren't possibly, wasn't representative of the whole community there. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of parents who would like their children to cycle to school. I mean, I spoke at that meeting, as you know, and was very much in favour as someone who cycles to Bertham frequently. My kids went to the preschool there, so I used to cycle that route every day. I mean, maybe we shouldn't get diverted into just talking about the Bertham cycle route.
No, I don't want to, nor do I want to just think about cycling, because obviously there's a lot more to addressing climate change than the transport issues, important though they are. And so would there be anything else you would do differently? Would you, for instance, the way council properties are heated?
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Am I right in thinking that the biggest carbon emitter in Guildford is the Spectrum? The Spectrum is.
I think that's true, but I haven't. I would need to check. I think I've heard something similar to that. Yes,
I think it's something around 40% of carbon emissions from Guildford Borough Council properties is a Spectrum. Now, what's happening with the Spectrum? We've had 4 years of nothing happening with Spectrum. It needs to replace. It needs a serious, very, very serious upgrade, and it needs to be replaced. But nothing's happening. Now, I'm sure there was a report going to the exec a few weeks ago, and it was on the agenda, and then it got pulled. Who knows? I don't know the reason for that. But we've got to press on with things like this. We can't say climate emergency on one hand, Fine. The Spectrum is causing all these climate change problems for us, and we're not doing anything with it. We need to press on. We can't just keep kicking on oars. The other thing about Spectrum is that the repairs are costing something in the region of £1 million a year, which is just more money down the drain. You know, it's just, well, what are we doing? We need to press on with these projects and get them done.
Okay, so if Labour are in charge, would what would you do about Spectrum? Rebuild it, repair it, or scrap it?
But I don't have access to all the reports and what's happening with Spectrum and the recommendations that are coming, that are coming forward. It seems to me the most sensible thing is to replace it. And I think that has been mooted before, and numbers have been worked out on the cost of doing that. And I think that, but whatever happens, we've got to make a decision whether we're going to, because it is a big carbon emitter. It does cost a lot of money in repairs, and nothing seems to be happening. I personally, it seems to me the most likely way forward is to replace Spectrum. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. My kids are learning to swim there at the moment. We went there for bowling because it's half term of the week. My kids do a gymnastics thing on Friday, and it's used all the time. It's such an amazing asset for Guildford, but it needs to be sorted, and we need to get on with it.
But obviously, to do that, you've got to get money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but at the moment we're spending money just repairs, and it's just money we're never going to see again. Let's spend money on making it better, or improving it, or replacing it, ideally.
Okay, Howard Smith, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Martin.